the end of Kasen Koji's prophecy. Or perhaps more accurately, the future will unfold according to true destiny. Whether it's bad or not, that's what we have to accept. So yeah, I'm Nim without the E. Let's talk for a moment about this latest chapter. First and foremost, we really didn't expect that the end of this invasion would be resolved by a shinobi whom I think many of you might have underestimated. But at least, since the beginning when we predicted the end of this invasion, I personally never expected it to be ended by Boruto or even Daemon. Yeah, the reason I didn't predict it would be them earlier is, of course, because that would make for an uninteresting plot and might be way too predictable. Because actually, regarding the method or the end of this invasion, I actually suspected it would be a silly yet surprisingly effective approach. That is, the idea of making the Mamushi compete against each other until only one remains, and that one would be the one to obtain Ida. And at that point, with only one Mamushi left, he would be betrayed and killed. A method I think Ikemoto would have chosen when Konohamaru destroyed Matsuri. But as it turns out, the end of the Mushi invasion wasn't like that. Rather, it was still within our predictions. Before the full spoilers came out, we had already predicted it. And perhaps more accurately, this is why we shouldn't underestimate Inojin. So far, the Boruto story has developed and unfolded in a way that's far from monotonous. The writer crafts the plot so compellingly that fans can't fully anticipate what's coming in each arc. But if I may share a little personal pride, for some reason, I'm honestly very happy that two of my predictions came true. Yeah, but of course that's also thanks to our discussions together through this community. Starting from using Ida as bait, to Inojin controlling Kobu's consciousness, ending in victory. A truly epic sacrifice that will culminate in something brilliant. Yeah, that's the reality. But aside from that, at least for the next few minutes, I want us to discuss what will happen to Koji in the future. Or more precisely, whether the revelation of a weakness that perhaps shouldn't have been exposed will cause Koji's abilities to end up in complete chaos. The ability to see the future and learn techniques from that future actually ends up destroying the future timeline itself. An explanation of Inojin's latest jutsu has triggered something even worse, and it's even caused Koji to lose the edge of his abilities. And at this point, is all of this rooted in Koji's personal mistake? I mean, was the biggest trigger caused by Koji explaining Inojin's technique from the future? Then, what about Boruto? What about the techniques or jutsu that Boruto learned from the future through Koji? Does that also affect the future and even make the predictions more difficult and complicated? And most importantly of all, will Koji no longer be able to see the future like he does now? Because after all, the fact is that this ability only activates at certain moments, and Koji himself has admitted that he can't use it at will. But at this point, in the middle of such a crucial situation during the battle, Koji has confirmed that he doesn't know, since the ability hasn't been active ever since he explained the future transmission technique so that Inojin could learn it earlier. Yeah, you get what I mean, right? And to answer that, at least these two analyses make sense. First analysis, this is purely the effect of the butterfly effect in Koji's jutsu. Here's the thing, when Kashin Koji sees the future, he's actually just accessing a timeline that hasn't been disrupted yet. But when he starts leaking information from the future into the present, he indirectly alters the key variables in that timeline. A simple example, as Koji explained in this chapter. In the future, Inojin learns that technique due to specific conditions, after numerous casualties, mental strain, and the aftermath of a much more severe battle against Mamushi. But in the current timeline, Koji actually accelerates that process. The result? The future he originally saw is no longer relevant. It's like you're looking at a road map, but suddenly the road changes right before your eyes. Of course, the map becomes inaccurate. So in this analysis, it's not that Koji's ability is actually broken, but because the future he saw no longer exists. He literally erased that path with his own actions. But even though I said the ability is broken, at least based on what's been explained in the spoilers, Koji says that knowing the future is something that destroys the future itself. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Now, the second analysis focuses more on the limitations of Koji's ability itself. It was explained from the start that this prescience ability isn't something he can fully control. He can't activate it whenever he wants, and there's likely some kind of trigger or specific condition for it to activate. And the past few chapters seem to have proven that. And in my opinion, all of this started when Boruto didn't follow Koji's instructions to keep waiting until the right time. I mean, we know that in the middle of the battle in the Land of Wind, Konohamaru and Sarada were fighting to defeat Ryu and Matsuri. But at the very least, the situation became even more complicated when Boruto witnessed Yodo's death. That's when Boruto's doubts began. Moreover, Koji's words about Yodo's sacrifice were something that greatly benefited the awakening of Sarada's power, leading Boruto to think that Koji intended to sacrifice another friend's life. As a result, Boruto, who was supposed to stay in hiding until the right time, instead rushed into the battle to prevent Koji from sacrificing Konohamaru. Now at this point, Koji also said that if Boruto showed up in the middle of that battle, it would trigger Jura's appearance. And based on that future, Boruto would be done for, no doubt. But the turning point was Kawaki's appearance in the middle of the fight. And of course, that's also what triggered the ability to activate. And if we look at the pattern that has already unfolded after hearing this explanation, is there anything you can predict? I mean, even though we've confirmed that Koji can't use that ability at will, does that mean when Inojin wanted to know about future developments during this invasion, Koji actually didn't know? And most importantly, will that ability never activate again? Or is it just that Koji's explanation of the transmission ability has caused the prescience to become inactive again? And according to my personal analysis, Koji really doesn't know, just like he said in this chapter, but that doesn't mean he won't be able to use his ability anymore going forward. There are certain conditions that need to be met, and in this chapter, those conditions or limits haven't been fully met yet. Because once again, the ability is triggered by something truly urgent, usually in a complicated or dangerous situation, like when Boruto was on the verge of death. And honestly, I'm struggling to find the perfect words for this case, but you get what I mean, right? But aside from that, this ability can also become less effective when Koji relies too much on information from the future. As a result, the system kind of overloads or even temporarily shuts down. It's not because it's permanently broken, but because it simply isn't designed to be used continuously. Yeah, that's more or less how it is. Now let's move on to a deeper question. What about Boruto? If we apply the same logic, all the techniques or information Boruto learns from the future also have the potential to disrupt the original timeline. That means the more they take from the future, the more chaotic the future itself becomes. And this is what makes the current situation so unpredictable. Ironically, Koji's ability, which should have been his greatest strength, has turned into a double-edged sword. And the worst case scenario, in the future, Koji won't just struggle to see the future, he'll also have to face the consequences of the future he's already ruined himself. So if asked, is this Koji's fault? The answer, yes, but not entirely. Because on one hand, he was just trying to save more people. But on the other hand, the method he chose actually accelerated changes that even he himself can no longer control. And from here, the direction of Boruto's story becomes clearer. It's no longer about avoiding the future, but more about creating a new future that has never existed before. And maybe this is the point where the end of Kashin Koji's prophecy truly begins. But has Boruto, as a singularity of fate, disrupted that ability as well? Well, for this case, I'd like us to discuss it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, help me reach 100 likes or 1K hype points. Thank you for watching. See you in the full review for the next chapter on the 20th. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, Data Bio.